But Congressman Schiff, you could say, has been full of Schiff at some times. He said that the majority memo was going to include national security that couldn't be released. That wasn't true. He said it was going to contain sources and methods. That's all public. Now we can see that's not true. He said it was materially altered. And it turns out that there was grammatical changes, and the only changes beyond grammatical was requested by Congressman Schiff, as well as a change that was requested by the FBI.
We're talking tonight about the two pieces of breaking news. One, Maggie Haberman's new reporting on the president's legal team advising him to refuse an interview with special counsel Mueller. Maggie's going to join us in a moment. Also, the House Intelligence Committee voting to release a Democratic counterpart to the Nunes memo, as well as President Trump's claim that the Nunes memo vindicates him on any Russia-related wrongdoing. Before the break, you heard from Democrat Mike Quigley. Joining us now is Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin, a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, Anderson. Good to be with you.
So this morning you tweeted, I want to read it out, saying, "Friends don't let friends on the House Intel Committee compromise good sources and methods. Schiff deliberately and unnecessarily loaded up his memo with many sources and methods that shouldn't be released, and he knows it. There's a 0% chance this isn't deliberate to play games, meddle, and obstruct." You also tweeted you don't have a problem with Congressman Schiff's memo coming out if it's changed. What evidence do you have that he deliberately constructed his memo in a way that it can't be released?
Well, you can tell by the way he's been answering questions with regards to the memo. He has not revealed the fact that his memo is filled up with different sources and methods that have to be redacted. I think the responsible thing would be for the drafter of the memo to prepare the memo for release, because it obviously includes a lot of different sources and methods that shouldn't have been in there in the first place.
But didn't the committee, which has Republicans on obviously in the majority, they unanimously voted to release the memo today. So wouldn't the Republicans have voted it down if you were right? And also the White House says, look, it goes through a review process just like the Republican memo did, and you would think any sources and methods would be able to be redacted, no?
Yeah, and I'm confident that as this memo is going through the declassification process, that you will have to redact those sources and methods. And I'm glad you quoted that second tweet that I had sent out, because it's an important point. I want the American public to have as much information as possible, and that includes getting the Schiff memo as well. As that second tweet went on, I said, if Congressman Schiff wants to change anything, that he's basically making the same exact point, but without revealing certain sources and methods, I'm all for that. As it goes through this process of declassification, I'm confident that we can get this out to the public.
Why do you think, though, the Republicans then unanimously voted on the committee to let it go forward? I mean, if you would think they would share your concerns about sources and methods.
They do. They do. And as it's going through the declassification process over the next few days, I don't want to speak for them, but I know that I'm not alone in being highly confident that as this memo gets prepared for a public release, that it will include redactions. Again, and I'm not saying redacting points that Congressman Schiff would like to make. I am all for him getting every single one of his points out. Exactly. Make the same exact point, just removing certain sources and methods.
Congressman Schiff says that Chairman Nunes refused to answer questions today about whether he or his staff coordinated his memo with the White House, though he did, in Schiff's words, make a, quote, lawyerly statement that the White House wasn't involved in the drafting of the memo. It still leaves a lot of room for possible coordination in some ways with the White House. If there was coordination, would you be comfortable with that? If it was with staffers, some sort of coordination?
I'm not aware of there being any coordination. Everything that I've come in contact with and all of my different conversations all substantiate that there wasn't any cooperation at all in both the staff for the House Intel Committee and Chairman Gowdy. Those are the people who actually read the underlying source material, and they're preparing of the document. I'm not aware of.
So why not just say so? I mean, because this is the second time now the Nunes has been asked, the White House has been asked, and no one seems to really give a straight answer, just saying absolutely no coordination on any level.
Well, listen, I wasn't in the meeting tonight that took place, but Congressman Schiff, you could say, has been full of Schiff at some times. He said that the majority memo was going to include national security that couldn't be released. That wasn't true. He said it was going to contain sources and methods. That's all public. Now we can see that's not true. He said it was materially altered. And it turns out that there was grammatical changes, and the only changes beyond grammatical was requested by Congressman Schiff, as well as a change that was requested by the FBI. There have been issues with regards to when Don Jr., for example, was testifying, Congressman Schiff walking out of the room and providing updates to the media, even though it's a several-hour interview, and that wasn't supposed to happen. So Congressman Schiff keeps feeding all of these different talking points to the public. I was in the House Intel Committee this evening, but consistent with all of the ways that he has been communicating his own talking points to the American public, I wouldn't be surprised if the way he put it isn't exactly what happened. Finally,
Congressman, the New York Times is reporting tonight a story that just broke that the president has been advised by his lawyers to refuse to sit down for, as the Times characterizes it, a wide-ranging interview with the special counsel. Would you support that course of action, that if the president's lawyers say don't do it, that he shouldn't?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any evidence whatsoever that there has been any collusion at all between President Trump and the Russians. Probably the biggest risk, if he was talking to his own attorneys with regards to a meeting, is just a trap. I mean, Michael Flynn didn't get in trouble for underlying activities that he was being asked about. It's the fact that, but when Peter Strzok and the others were asking him about it, he didn't tell the truth. Same thing with Papadopoulos pleading guilty to lying to the FBI.
But that's not a trap. That's just lying.
Well, no, and it's really important that if the president was to give testimony, that you have to be very careful. Each question that's asked, you can't shoot from the hip at all. You have to give the best answer you could possibly give with the information that you're aware of, in order to avoid that from happening.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're worried the president would lie or just misremember.
No,
facts.
I'm actually trying to answer as to why his legal counsel may not want him to give that testimony. But I don't know what is going on behind closed doors in their conversations.
Sure.
If the president wants to give his, give testimony or not, that's really his decision with his attorneys. I would encourage, the White House has provided tens of thousands of documents to the special counsel. Many in the administration have sat down for long depositions with the special counsel. I'm someone who's advocating for the Mueller investigation to end, not prematurely, but ending by allowing Mueller to complete his investigation thoroughly and effectively and not have this linger for years. Let's bring it to an effective and quick conclusion the right way.
Although, as the Times points out, if he doesn't sit down, it could very well go to courts, which would make it go on longer. But Congressman Zeldin, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Anderson.
More now on this new story from CNN political analyst